AskReddit, English teachers. What topic on a write about anything essay made you lose hope in humanity? 2 stand out. First one, the prompt was if you could go back and change one thing from your life, what would it be? A young man wrote about the night his abusive alcoholic dad came home. Apparently from the story, dad came home this way often. The fateful night he wanted to change was the first time he stood up to his dad. Dad came home. Kid defended his mom and dad in a drunken rage left. Dad got into a head-on collision and died. Kid totally blamed himself for his father's death. Second story, the prompt was create a holiday and what the traditions and customs of the holiday were. A student created National Black People Day. I was like, okay, how are you going to celebrate it? She said by killing white people. I was like, what? She said, yeah, once a year we can kill as many white people as we want. I got the counselor involved in both of them. Here's one I can actually answer. I was teaching an IELTS test prep class to high school-aged students in China. One of my students is planning on being a nutritionist, and when I gave her a topic about what she would change if she could be the president for a day, she said that she would imprison everyone who was over a certain BMI until they were thin, and if they were repeat offenders they should spend life in prison for wasting public resources and making healthcare more expensive for everyone else. Not a teacher, but in 3rd grade I moved to a new school. I was in a Montessori before. The new school was a Catholic school. I was a Unitarian Universalist, and we always called our preacher Reverend, not Father. In my new school, the school priest, Father Jim, was retiring and we had to write a short essay about how much we'll miss him. This was like, I dunno, the 3rd day of school? I had no fucking clue what the hell a Father Jim was, and since nobody bothered to write out his full name I assumed this school just had a weird name for the gym. So of course, I wrote an essay about how much I'll miss the gym, and how terrible it's gonna be that I can't run all over it or play football in it anymore, and how terrible it is that the gym is retiring. I ended the essay wishing the gym well with its new tires. The teacher was not amused. I was teaching a University 101 class. Study habits, how to write essays, time management. How to get by at college for kids who honestly aren't really ready for college. The assignment, 1 paragraph about something that interests you. One of those essays read, I am interested in blueberry muffin. Like how they round on the top and ripped on the sides. That what I like, I kept that on my fridge for a year. It wasn't write about anything, it was more like create a story. My student, 9 years old, female, wrote about 2 best friends. They were at the mall when one of them got kidnapped by a villain, who put her in a suitcase and took her to London. Everyone searched for her and she was found dead. The villain had murdered her. The police arrested and imprisoned him for 10 years and then killed him. The girl's best friend was really sad and killed herself, and then they lived happy ever after. She is 9. And wrote about kidnap, murder, police violence and suicide, and romanticized suicide. A Catholic high school in my hometown asked for students to write about what they would do if there were no laws or lack of morals. This was inspired by the purge, which had been discussed in ethics class. 12 students were suspended indefinitely, 2 or 3 ended up expelled, the others returned eventually, for what they wrote, ranging from date rape to human trafficking to mass shootings, even though the assignment made it more than obvious that it was a fictional assignment, and by relating it to the purge pretty much goaded students into matching the level of lawlessness. Made national news. There were articles by psychologists for days. They even mentioned the Reddit Ask a Rapist thread and the psychologist's response to not create a feedback forum. Not a single article even came close to suggesting that if you give 17 to 19-year-olds an opening to go against good taste, that most of them would do so for shits and giggles. 2 students, The date rape one and the mass shooting one did not find another school and did not graduate, or at least had to redo their last year. I teach literature at a college and mostly deal with freshmen and sophomores. For our free writing unit, one of the assignments asked the students to write any original story based on your favorite fictional genre. So, one of my students wanted to do horror. I said great. That's also a favorite of mine. Go nuts. Eventually, the assignments are turned in and I'm grading them at home. I get to the kid with the horror story and it's about a serial killer who stalks women. Okay, whatever. Nothing I haven't seen before. But then the story goes into long, excruciating detail about the next victim this killer plans on stalking/raping/murdering, a petite blonde in her early 30s who teaches English. And it just so happens I'm a petite blonde in her early 30s who, well yeah. I didn't report it or anything since it was a creative exercise. I didn't grade him unfairly, either. But I seriously couldn't look that kid in the eye ever again. Edit, still alive. But holy shit, guys. If you like that story, I got a ton more. For example, my students do journals and the stuff they write sometimes. I had one of them admit he ran a crack den in his basement. Now that I reported. Not a teacher but I used to tutor middle schoolers and lower class men, just graduated in HS. A kid wrote an essay about cavemen using hieroglyphics to communicate how they'd fight the dinosaurs. Essay was right about an early human civilization and compare and contrast their way of life to ours. This kid was in AP World History, effectively a college-level class, and didn't understand that there was around 63 million years separating dinosaurs and the first Homo sapien civilizations. He then told me that I was incorrect and posed the question, if dinosaurs were dead then how did people ride them? I was truly baffled by that. This, an incident where a guy threatened to scoop my nuts like they were raised nets, a girl who didn't understand that countries that exist now didn't always exist, and a guy who couldn't understand how supply and demand works simply because he would just go out hunting if food gets too expensive is why I stopped tutoring history and economics. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you were at all entertained, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing for future content. Stay safe everyone, until next time.